Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. Police have arrested a fourth teen in the attack on an autistic boy as experts weigh in on why violent crimes within young people is up. Plus details from the first public school board meeting since a school in Kingsville was controversially named. Parents and students hoping for a different outcome. And we go back in time to when shopping on Sundays was illegal in this week's Rose City Rewind. Windsor police have arrested a fourth teenager in an alleged assault against a 16-year-old boy. This incident, part of a concerning trend that shows youth crime in Windsor is up. The CBC's Dale Molnar brings us this story and a warning. Some may find the video disturbing.
On March 9th, a group of teens attacked an autistic teen at the Devonshire Mall. They kicked him repeatedly while he was on the ground. It's just one of 3 violent crimes allegedly being committed by young teens this month alone. One expert says the fact they posted this video online gives an insight as to why they did it in the first place.
They're attention seeking and it's a clout seeking type thing. It's like the TikTok challenges, right?
Joanna Conrad runs the Youth Diversion Program in Windsor, which coordinates different programs for youth who get into trouble. She says there are a variety of reasons for this type of behavior, but a disturbing trend is that the youth don't seem to care how much harm they cause.
We are seeing a lot more aggravated mischiefs, just assaults, and in general, just a lot of different things that are going on where it's like, what's happening? How did we get here?
And the statistics support it. Youth crime was up over 40% last year compared to 2022. To help, Youth Diversion just received $500,000 from the federal government to expand their programs to a wider age range.
We have youth who are struggling with all sorts of challenges.
At Maryvale Family and Adolescent Services, they sometimes deal with these violent offenders too. They also say social media plays a part, but it is a complex issue.
If children are experiencing bullying themselves, if children are experiencing, just different challenges, maybe grief or sadness or loneliness. Sometimes we see youth doing things to get the approval of others, and sometimes these could be really negative behaviors as well. But we can see a lot of peer pressure as well when it comes to these really violent acts, I would say.
And they say how to rehabilitate these youth is also a complex issue, but the younger they are, they say the more likely they can be rehabilitated.
Right, a lot of our youth that come to us sometimes are struggling with self-regulation, right? So learning the skills, the tools, the resources to better manage issues or emotions that come up so that they can effectively deal with them in ways that are healthier and don't, increase risk to themselves or others.
But experts say discipline among youth needs to start at home.
And they need to hear from the parents what's acceptable behavior, what's not acceptable. Like, first and foremost, parents have to be the educator.
All 4 teens arrested in connection with the mall beating are just 14 years old. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
Fire trucks in Tecumseh will soon be equipped with naloxone used to treat an opioid overdose. Council also recently approved a 2-year pilot program to keep the devices at some town facilities. Over the last 3 years, there were 20 calls for service relating to a suspected opioid overdose in Tecumseh. Naloxone was administered by paramedics in 11 of those cases. The 2-year pilot project will cost roughly $1,200. Calls to rescind the name chosen for a new Kingsville school fell flat at last night's public school board meeting, leaving those who came to speak frustrated. The CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa reports.
And in the interest of true inclusivity, give the public back their voice.
People pushing back at the first public board meeting following a divisive decision to name the new Kingsville school Erie Migration Academy. Parents and students say the process lacked transparency, sparking mistrust, adding that the acronym is inappropriate.
The name chosen has already become a source of ridicule with the acronym EMA, leading to a social mockery and an embarrassment due to what's widely known in our age group as an acronym for Eat My.
I think everybody was well intended.
Trustee Julia Burgess is at the center of this criticism. She chaired the naming committee and pushed aside a list of final names selected through the process, putting forward Erie Migration Academy, which was agreed on by the other trustees.
Trustee Burgess was within her rights to provide an alternate name. The question that I would like to raise is not whether she was allowed to do this, but rather, should she have done this, from a moral standpoint?
There's a really unfortunate narrative out there that because you're not deeply listened to and understanding and really considered, and there's another decision, that's disrespectful. It's not.
Some trustees pushed for the board to take back the name, but were unsuccessful. Instead, the board decided to review its naming policy for school buildings. Burgess suggested the idea, saying the policy and regulations have issues.
I feel overall just disappointed. We're not really sure what else we can do to show how important this is to us. Yeah.
Trustee Linda Chin says she plans on asking the board to review its naming process for the school at the next meeting. Board Chair Gail Hatfield did not want to comment after the meeting. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
Time is running out to claim the winnings on a lottery ticket worth $100,000. The ticket was sold somewhere in Kingsville a year ago, and the deadline to collect the prize is approaching. The CBC's Dawson Chen has more.
1164893. Those are the numbers on a ticket that scored the $100,000 encore prize of a Lotto 649 draw on April 1st, 2023. Now it's almost a year later, and that prize money still hasn't been claimed. It's a situation that has everyone in Kingsville checking their pockets and drawers.
I will have them check and encourage them come to store to check. Don't forget.
I know it's not mine because I claim mine every day.
I've never won, and with this unclaimed ticket, it's like, oh. So my husband and I are looking everywhere. You know, people get busy. You stick them here, you stick them there.
Holders of Lotto 649 tickets that match draw numbers have exactly 1 year from the draw date to come forward and claim their winnings. The easiest way to do it is to verify the ticket at any terminal of an OLG-approved retailer. The verification process can also be initiated on the OLG's website. But after the 1 year deadline, the unclaimed money changes ownership.
So the winnings that go unclaimed from Lotto Max or 649 or any of these national games, because this one is a national game that's played coast to coast to coast, it does go back into the national jackpot pool for additional prizes, for bonuses. It's not our money. It's your money because you bought that ticket. So we want to make sure that everyone has a chance at collecting their rightful winnings.
According to Batanti, the OLG pays out $2.6 billion in prize money every year. But about 1% of that goes unclaimed. That's around $26 million of unfulfilled dreams. Naturally, the unclaimed encore win has got many Kingsville lottery players fantasizing about what they do with that money.
Oh my gosh, if I won $100,000, I would help my son with the down payment on a house.
$100,000? I'd be able to finish my retirement with my wife. Take a trip.
Where to?
Scotland, Ireland.
Europe, China, everywhere is good. $100,000. That will be very happy.
Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
We're getting reaction tonight to a class action lawsuit against the Ford government. When the government came to power, it canceled a pilot project that gave more money to some people on social assistance. The pilot was supposed to last 3 years. Instead, it ended after just one. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop has more.
Dana Bowman was part of the Basic Income Pilot Project. Her income went from $600 a month to $1,400. She remembers her reaction when, after a year, the program was abruptly canceled.
Gutted. The floor was yanked out from underneath me. I just felt so lied to.
She says under the pilot, suddenly she could afford fresh fruits and vegetables, go to potlucks, even buy new underwear.
What I don't deserve to have, new bras and underwear, that I have to have them used. I want to break the shame, and I felt the basic income gave us that.
Bowman is one of the plaintiffs in a class action lawsuit against the provincial government, certified earlier this month, seeking damages of $200 million. Their lawyer's argument?
When you make a promise like that, you have to keep it. It's a contract. The government still does business and enters into contracts the way people do. They don't get to change their minds once they've entered into it. That's our allegation.
Around 4,000 people were part of the pilot project in Lindsay, where Bowman lives, as well as Thunder Bay and Hamilton. The program was brought in under former Premier Kathleen Wynne, ended early by the Ford government.
We were hitting the pause button.
As for the reason, according to the minister in charge at the time,
I can only speak to the fact that at that time we were making some changes to social assistance, including raising the rates.
She wasn't aware of the class action. A spokesperson for the current minister wouldn't comment on this case since it's before the courts.
I can understand political parties not liking other political parties, but treating the people of Ontario like that is just simply wrong.
Dana Bowman is back on disability supports, receiving $700 a month.
I'm back where I'm struggling even to do the day olds. You got to get there early to shop day old. Back surviving from food banks.
It's been 5 years since she first went to court about this. Her lawyer acknowledges this will likely take years more to resolve. Lorenda Radicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Legal cannabis sales in this country have plateaued after 5 years of steady growth, and that's got the pot industry looking for ways to woo more customers from the illicit market. They're asking the provinces to allow producers and retailers to collaborate on in-store promotions. CBC's Mike Crawley has the story.
These are just some of the offerings inside this pot store in Hamilton. Plenty of choices for the customer and a marketing challenge for cannabis companies.
Most people that walk into an alcohol store typically know what they want to buy before they walk in, whereas in a cannabis retail store, that isn't the same. We don't have fans of brands as of yet.
Federal law restricts what cannabis advertising can look and sound like. The provinces control the rules for retail shops like this.
It's very, very difficult for a brand to build any kind of relationship directly with a consumer. It's really all done at the store level right now because of the way the restrictions are on producers and their marketing.
But there are limits to what pot companies can do at the store level. Everywhere but Saskatchewan, retailers are banned from making deals with producers to run in-store promotions, such as sampling or special pricing, the kind of thing you'd often see in a liquor store. The pot industry wants this changed.
Take the cannabis rules and policies and treat them like liquor. Allow us to have those same store relationships that a Budweiser could have with a liquor store. That's really what we're looking for.
The request comes at a time of financial struggles for some Canadian pot companies. After the boom years following legalization in 2018, layoffs, closures, and bankruptcy filings hit the industry in 2023.
What we want is just essentially the ability to do what every other retail sector can, which is work together with our suppliers on joint promotions so that we can build awareness around those legal products and continue to drive down illicit market sales in Canada.
There are some signs these requests are gaining traction. Alberta's cannabis regulator is reviewing its retail rules, and an official says that province will look at possible policy changes in the coming months.
Ontario, I think we still have a little bit of ways to go, but we definitely need to make that push happen in Ontario.
The Ontario Chamber of Commerce is also asking the Doug Ford government to end its ban on cannabis producers and retailers collaborating. A government spokesperson declined to say where the province stands. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
I know myself and probably others don't think twice about running errands on Sundays, but back in 1991, going to the stores on Sunday became illegal. That's after the Ontario Court of Appeal reversed a decision to allow storefronts to open. Well, being a border city, Windsor was put in a challenging position. This story done by former CBC Windsor reporter Rob Miller.
Shopping malls were quiet today. The parking lots were empty. For the moment, wide-open Sunday shopping in Windsor has died with last week's court ruling. But the lack of Sunday shopping in Windsor hasn't changed the habits of many Windsor shoppers. They continue to do what they've done for years. They come to suburban Detroit. It's not difficult to spot Ontario license plates at any of the Detroit area shopping centers. Canadians come here 7 days a week to load up on everything from groceries to clothing. The reasons they come here? Convenience and price.
Even with the duty, you're still basically paying a lot less than Canada. And also along with that is the convenience of everything's open, from furniture store to grocery store to hardware store.
I'd much rather be shopping in Canada. However, all of a sudden I can't do that anymore, and I figured I'd come over here and see what were the comparisons.
And if he's like any of these shoppers, he'll be back. That's something that worries businesses and politicians in the border cities. Windsor Mayor John Milson has been asked by the Premier to meet with other border city mayors. He wants them to discuss whether their communities should be exempted from any new Sunday closing law so they can compete with U.S. businesses.
I think that it's been very clear with all of the millions of dollars that are going to the states right now, especially on weekends, that there has been an opportunity to us to compete on a Sunday with the Detroit sector.
These cooler temperatures are not letting up, and that wind certainly doesn't help. We have your weather forecast coming up after the break. In addition to it being the first full day of spring, it's also World Happiness Day. The latest World Happiness Report puts Canada in the top 20 of happiest nations. That's ahead of the U.S., but behind several Scandinavian countries. And it highlights a growing divide in happiness between younger and older people. CBC's Marianne Demain takes us through it.
Many experts say there is a list of factors contributing to the unhappiness of this younger group, those who are 30 years of age and younger. Things like uncertainty around the economy, the lack of affordable housing, all different factors that are contributing to this feeling of hopelessness and unhappiness compared to those who are older, specifically those who are 60 years of age and older who appear to be much happier. And that's quite a shift from the past 15 years when the younger group were actually happier than those older. One researcher who was also the study editor says some parts of the world, children are already experiencing the equivalent of a midlife crisis. The U.S. Surgeon General also likened social media use in youth to the equivalent of having children in cars that have no safety features and driving on roads with no speed limits, because social media, according to experts, is also a contributing factor to just why this younger group is feeling increasingly unhappy right now. Here's more on what keeps people happy.
I'd consider myself a happy person, even though stressed with school and stuff. I still feel grateful for breathing every day and just waking up and exploring and going out with my friends.
I focus on meaning and purpose over happiness. I find happiness and sadness is kind of a sliding scale. They're always going to be temporary.
I spend my time with people that also make me feel really happy and encourage them to do the same.
The World Happiness Report looked at how happy people were in more than 140 countries around the world over the past 3 years. And many say that looking at this younger group who appear to be increasingly unhappy should highlight the need for immediate action when it comes to policy.
So wealth is one thing, but then there's also a healthy life expectancy, which is also very high in Scandinavian countries, whereas in other wealthy countries like the United States, life expectancy is actually going down for certain segments of the population. And then finally, something that where the Scandinavian countries really stand out, we find, is in terms of the social fabric, social capital of their society.
For the 7th year in a row, Finland is the #1 country for happiness, in part thanks to low corruption and free health care. It was followed by Denmark and Iceland. Canada is ranked at number 15, the U.S. at 23. Important to note that none of the world's largest countries were ranked among the happiest. Marianne Demain, CBC News, Toronto.
Riley Laychuk is here filling in for Colette Kennedy tonight. What do you think, Riley? Is Canada ranking in the top 20 of happiest nations surprising to you, or would you have predicted that?
I don't think it's terribly unsurprising. You know, I think we have a lot to be grateful for, especially since it's the first day of spring, right?
Yeah. My thing is, I'm curious to see what Finland has going on, though. What makes them so happy?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious to know. Maybe I'll have to spend some time over there one day.
Yeah. Your answer about happiness, though, might change based on this forecast I have.
Okay.
And I'll give you a bit of a hint. Don't put the winter coat away just yet. So looking at this afternoon satellite radar, we have seen further to the north, areas like the GTA over toward London, seeing some lake effect snow, some flurries, some scattered precipitation through Windsor, Essex today. Otherwise, we've been seeing a pretty stable weather throughout today. As I mentioned, though, that is going to change. Pretty calm day on the way for Thursday. Don't have a lot to say about tomorrow, aside from that we're looking at pretty calm conditions and we're looking at as we get into Friday, things are changing. Yeah, we have a bit of a system moving in. Still some disagreement with the forecast modeling on what exactly is coming, but at this point looking like mainly a snow event through southwestern Ontario as we get through the morning into the afternoon Friday. Timing this out very early out still. We'll have a better picture of this tomorrow, but as we get into Friday, you can see southwestern Ontario in that 5 to 10 centimeters of snow range. So yeah, not quite done with winter just yet. Today, though, pretty nice day, getting up to between 2 and 4 degrees through southwestern Ontario. A bit cooler back to north, where we have seen some of that lake effect flurries and some very windy conditions throughout the day today. So across the region tonight, looking at temperatures around -6, -7. Still lingering chances of some flurries through London. Otherwise, mainly clear skies with a little bit of cloud cover throughout southwestern Ontario tonight. And tomorrow, we're looking at temperatures pretty similar. around that 1 to 3 degree mark tomorrow, which is a little bit below seasonal for this time of the year, but really not too terribly bad. Temperature-wise or sky condition-wise, we're looking at pretty sunny skies on the way tomorrow. So I've mentioned that snow coming for Friday, Meg, 3 degrees for Saturday with a clearing sky. And there's sort of the hope on the horizon there, plus 10 with a cloudy sky on the way for Monday. So a little bit of bump in the road to end the week, but things settle down after that, I think.
I saw a lot of pink and a lot of blue, so we'll have to prepare for that. Thanks so much for that, Riley. That's CBC's Riley Lachuk. Well, any Shakira fans out there, we got a story coming up you might like. The U.S. Secretary of State is back in the Middle East to deal with the war between Israel and Hamas. Antony Blinken arrived in Saudi Arabia today and will travel to Egypt tomorrow. Israel has been added to his itinerary for Friday. Blinken is trying to restart negotiations for a truce and a release of hostages. Meanwhile, Israel says it has killed more than 50 gunmen at Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City. It says the battle there is now in its third day. Hamas denies its fighters are present and says all the people killed were civilians. Gaza's health ministry has said the number of Palestinians killed in the war has far surpassed 30,000. The central bank in the United States is holding its benchmark interest rate steady for the 5th straight time. It currently has a target range of between 5.25% and 5.5%. Like the Bank of Canada, the U.S. Federal Reserve is maintaining high rates in an effort to lower inflation. The U.S. Federal Reserve expects to start trimming rates later this year, probably in June, if current economic forecasts are correct. U.S. inflation sits at 3.2%, and the country continues to experience strong job and economic growth. If you're not into comic books featuring the classic characters like Superman and Spider-Man, but you're more into pop culture, well, you might enjoy a new comic based on Shakira. Yes, the Colombian singer-songwriter is being immortalized in a comic book. It provides a colorful account of her rise to international stardom at a young age. The publication, called Female Force, Shakira looks at the artist's resilience, her ability to reinvent herself, and her unique musical style. Now, she doesn't wear a cape and she can't spin a web, but she certainly can sing. That's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.